we come to the main event, honoring Pat Emery. Yeah, somebody's really excited in the front row. Somebody's real excited. I'd like to invite Les Perry to come up and say a few words. Les has been a friend and a colleague and a compatriot of Pat's for decades. Les Perry, please, welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen. Your full attention, please.
Good evening. I was informed about 3 years ago that I was going to be called upon to spend 3 or 4 minutes honoring and saying some nice things about Pat Emery. And I'm probably the only guy that saw a bright side to the COVID epidemic, because I needed every bit of those 3 years to come up with 4 minutes of nice things to say about my old friend Pat Emery. So I've known Pat for a long time. We met the first week of law school, 1971, at UC Davis. We became close and lasting friends, I think in large part because we came from the same places. Rural area, small town, and steeped in agriculture. And over those years, I've had a ringside seat to Pat's incredible success over the years. Harvard undergrad, King Hall Law with honors, a long and distinguished and successful career as a trial lawyer, a partner in the, second best law firm in the county. Hey, second best isn't bad. The crowning jewel in Pat's career was his induction into the American College of Trial Lawyers. And the standard for that induction, I think, speaks more eloquently than I can about the person, the man you've chosen to honor tonight. So let me quote from the standard. The college fellows are chosen strictly by invitation and only after rigorous investigation. Fellowship is limited to 1% of the attorneys in any state, to those lawyers who have distinguished themselves in trial practice, not only as skilled trial lawyers who are recognized by judges and practitioners as the very best in their state, but as persons whose ethics, moral standards, congeniality, and community standing are exemplary. That's not a bad resume filler. You might ask, what does that have to do with agriculture? But to hear Pat tell it, it has everything to do with agriculture. I've heard Pat explain many times over the years how important his exposure to agricultural values as a young man has been to him. He credits his FFA experience and the mentors to much of his success over the years. And what's important about that for our purposes tonight is that Pat's never forgotten those important lessons learned about ag values or lost his gratitude for those who taught him along the way. And that gratitude has played back consistently over the years as Pat has given so much back to the agricultural community. There are endless examples, and that's why he's being honored tonight. I want to speak about just one that I'm personally familiar with that I think highlights both Pat's success as an attorney and his commitment to agriculture. So Pat served on the Sonoma County and Harvest Fair boards for many, many years, president of both. And he devoted most of his energy during those years to the ag side, working hard to preserve the role of the fair, the important role of the fair in the ag community, especially for young folks. Pat has been a fixture at the Junior Livestock Auction for years, buying animals, finding buyers, and acting as an auctioneer. And then, sort of continuing a theme we heard a minute ago, a few years ago, Pat was asked by Sarah Lee to act as chair of the newly formed Sonoma County Fair Foundation. In that capacity, he ended up sharing the capital drive to build the Sara Lee and Richard barn at the fair. And I'd like to tell you a bit about how that came about. Sara Lee intended for the foundation to embark upon a project that would enhance the fair experience and support ag educational opportunities. And when she passed away, the foundation decided to continue with her vision and worked toward that. And frankly, we wanted to capitalize on the love and devotion people held Sara Lee for that capital drive. In order to do that, we needed Richard's approval, and of course he gave it. But he didn't just give his permission, he gave his permission to Pat Emery. He knew Pat. Pat had represented Sara Lee and Richard over the years and had become a trusted advisor. And from that long-standing relationship that had become a friendship, he knew that if Pat took on that task, it would be done with commitment, enthusiasm, dignity, and most important, it would be successful. Now, Pat would be the first person to tell you he didn't do it alone, but if you ask anybody that was involved in that, and many of you are in this room, they'll tell you that without Pat's leadership, that would never have happened. That made it happen. And when I say happen, I mean raise $3 million on a capital drive in pretty hard times, and shepherd a construction project to a magnificent conclusion, creating a wonderful asset for the fair that is devoted to ag education opportunities. So the way I see it, those FFA mentors and teachers got it right a long time ago. Sara Lee and Richard got it right. The fair got it right. And now the Junior College Foundation Ag Trust got it right. Pat Emery is a good and valued friend of agriculture. I think, Pat, we're going to see a video. Okay.
Has always been a supporter of agriculture and education ever since I remember. We would love to honor Pat simply because he's got extraordinary contributions to the ag community and to Sonoma County's youth in agriculture. It's not often you find an individual with all of those rare attributes.
My dad has always impressed upon my sister and I that giving back is really important in any way that you can, particularly with your time. And I know what an important role ag has played in my dad's life and his upbringing. And so it's been incredibly important to him. And he has passed that love on to my daughters.
Pat's just an extraordinary person. You know, he really does mentor a lot of people, and just to see him and observe him in action is awesome.
Pat's biggest asset as a lawyer and maybe as a person is his ability to connect with other people. And these past 23 years, we have become very close. He's the best mentor I could have ever asked for. I go to Pat with any big personal decision or professional decision that I need to make.
Pat certainly deserves this recognition and award for all the work that he's done for agriculture youth in Sonoma County. He supports the kids by buying their livestock year after year, whether it's supporting the ag mechanics projects or the pigs or the sheep, it doesn't matter. He just is always helping our kids.
Pat, I'd just like to say congratulations on this incredible award. I know this one tonight is especially special to you because it's coming from the ag community, which you've been such an enormous part of all of these years.
My friend, you have done a lot of deeds for this community and our agriculture, and I hope you continue to do so. Congratulations.
When I found out that I would be chairing an event that is honoring you, that made it even more special for me. I hope you understand how important you are to everybody in the ag community.
Congratulations, Dad. I watched my entire life how much you've given back to other people and to the ag community in particular, and I'm just really proud to be your daughter.
Pat, thank you. We are so blessed to have someone with your interest and passion for agriculture and youth in agriculture and education, and we are so pleased to honor you this evening. Thank you, Pat.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Emery.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna try to do, can you hear me? This is, all right, because there's a weird feedback back here. Anyhow, I'm gonna do what my friend Rex Williams taught me, which is speak directly into the microphone. So, okay, yeah. Okay, you know, Annette said she hopes I continue to do this for many years. I went down to the boot barn this morning and bought a new pair of boots because mine all burned up in that fire in 2020 and I hadn't replaced them. And then my wife said to me, well, that's probably the last pair of boots you'll ever need. So I don't know, Annette, how long I'll be doing this, but I'll keep doing it as long as I can. I want to thank people who I had personal contact with. I know there are others. I hope I don't leave anybody out. I want to thank Annette O'Kelly, P.J. Lococo, Sheila Quince, Benjamin Goldstein, Dr. Frank Chong, Howard Dalton, Terry Lindley, Steve Olson, Jay Molyneux. Thank you, you guys. I want to introduce my family. My wife Allison is here. She has supported me in all my community activity. I appreciate that, dear. My daughters are here. Ashley. Ashley is a registered nurse. She got her nursing credential at the JC. My daughter Nicole is here. She is a marriage and family therapist. My sister Rayanne is here, my only sibling. And my grandson Benjamin is here. Ben is just completing his studies at the junior college and will be going to Sacramento State next year. My granddaughter Kate. Kate is finishing her junior year at Chico State, where she is studying to become an ag teacher. Okay? There are two other granddaughters. Elizabeth is up at the University of Oregon and couldn't come down. My older granddaughter Emma, who graduated from the University of California at Davis a couple of years ago, had a choice. She could either come here tonight to hear Grandpa speak, or she could spend 2 weeks with her boyfriend in Europe. What's wrong with that kid? Okay, I'm just going to wing it here. I really appreciate this recognition, and I think I can express my appreciation to Santa Rosa Junior College particularly, and to junior colleges in a more general way by just telling you a couple of stories, a couple of anecdotes from my personal life that are very meaningful to me. My sister and I grew up in this idyllic location. The house wasn't much, but we lived in the middle of 70 acres that was wooded in all directions. You couldn't see a light in any direction at night. The nearest pavement was a mile away, and there was an all-year stream that ran in front of the house, about 20 yards in front of the house, full of fish and frogs and turtles and everything else. And we devoted our time to raising animals, and basically we raised sheep, both breeding stock and fat lambs, and we raised fat steers. Our dad, on the other hand, brought home anything he ran onto. He had everything from fighting cocks to mules, and I'm not joking. That man brought home the damnedest menagerie, and so we grew up in the midst of taking care of animals of all types. And we were big in 4-H and FFA. My sister couldn't join FFA. Girls weren't allowed at that time. It was an all-male organization. So anyhow, I spent my childhood and my high school years doing FFA and other things related to agriculture. And then when I turned 18, I graduated from high school, and at that point, I thought I knew pretty much everything. And so I decided to go to the East Coast for college. I got back there. Harvard doesn't teach agriculture, and I totally lost contact with my ag roots. A couple of years went by after I got out of college, went to law school, same thing, no ag. So I lost that connection to the people and the events and the animals and all the things I'd grown up loving and caring about, until Richard Thomas called me. And Richard, and I had become friends at Davis. He was getting his master's degree in viticulture while I was getting my law degree. His wife Barbara, who's sitting right there, babysat for our kids who are sitting right here. And Richard invited me to go to lunch. I always say, you've heard me say this, some of you, I'm going to say it again. Richard Thomas taught me to drink wine. Richard Cundy taught me to drink good wine. We used to sit out on his patio, like God knows what we were drinking. So he called me and he invited me to go to lunch with himself and Steve Olson and Jim Porter. And at the end of lunch, Steve Olson said, we've been offering a course called Ag Law through a young man named Max Mickelson, a lawyer in Petaluma. But Max has decided he can't teach because he needs to devote more time to his clients. I didn't have that problem. Les and I had started to practice here. We came over here, didn't know anybody, and things were slim there those first couple of years. So I started teaching. Steve Olson didn't know what ag law was. I didn't know what ag law was. It was that rare opportunity to have a job where your boss has no idea what you're supposed to be doing. So I created a curriculum and taught the course for 4 or 5 semesters, met a lot of you, met a lot of people from the ag community, and that's how I got back to agriculture. So I'm very grateful to Rich and Steve and Jim and to Santa Rosa Junior College for giving me a chance to reunite with the things I love and to be here tonight 48 years later. Okay, that's the first anecdote. Second anecdote, I'm going to tell you something about our parents. And my sister's freaking out. She has no idea what I'm about to say. And there's a lot that could be said. Our dad quit high school at the end of his sophomore year, never went back. He was the undisputed boss around our operation, except when it came to religion and education, and he left that to my mom. We had an odd religious experience. My mother was Catholic, our father was heathen, and he practiced that religion zealously. He had 6 brothers, and together they formed a congregation of the Church of Hell Raising, and they were good at it. So Dad never said anything about religion. He chose to teach by example. When it came to education, he only ever said 2 things to me. He said, do what your ma tells you, and don't end up on the wrong end of a shovel like I did. And I worked out there with him on that property every weekend until I was 18. So I knew what the wrong end of a shovel looked like. And I took what he had to say pretty seriously. Our mother had a similar background in that she was completely destitute as a child. Her father had died in the influenza epidemic of 1918 when she was 3 years old, followed by her only sibling, her sister, 3 days later, who succumbed to the same disease. So she was raised by my grandmother, who had only an 8th grade education, a little tiny woman, just a little bitty woman. And her only skill was cleaning houses. And so she supported them through the 1920s and the early 1930s doing that. She never remarried, never had a relationship after my grandfather died. And when she graduated, when Mom graduated from high school in Sacramento, the only educational opportunity available to her, because of her financial circumstances, was Sacramento Junior College, which is now Sacramento City College. And she went there. She could ride the trolley down 2nd Avenue where they lived for a nickel to get to the campus, and she could spend a nickel to get back home. And at the end of her 2 years there, she was the #1 student in her class, which entitled her to a full scholarship, and I mean a full scholarship, to the University of California, Berkeley. And going to Cal, the undisputed highlight of her life. She talked about it all the time. She taught my sister and I to disdain anything that had to do with Stanford University. And if there are any of you Stanford grads out there, Cardinals, trees, whatever you are now, I really apologize for that remark. But she also reminded us frequently that Cal went to the Rose Bowl her senior year. And as I was remembering that in anticipation of tonight, I thought that's so unlikely, I'm going to look it up. But in fact, Cal's football team of 1937 was undefeated, and on January 1st, 1938, they shut out the University of Alabama. Now, that might not happen today, but it happened. Mom went on to become a teacher. She was my first grade teacher, my sister's first grade teacher, because there were no other schools around. She went to school part-time in the evenings and summers when she wasn't teaching, got a master's degree, and became a curriculum consultant and a curriculum writer. She focused on phonics. She taught teachers how to teach children to read. And I think it's funny that now phonics has come back in vogue. So, Mom, wherever you are, it just took the rest of the world 70 years to catch up with you. She finished her career when she retired by becoming an elected member of the El Dorado County Board of Education, where she served until she was 80 years old. So, Terry, you've got a ways to go. The point of all that is this. Our family was converted in one generation, my mother's generation, from a family that had no college in any direction, really no high school in a lot of cases, but no college, to a family now where college is not just an aspiration or an expectation, it's an assumption. We go to college, don't we? Benjamin? Yeah. I'm teasing him. I'm teasing my grandson. So the only reason that that transformation was possible for my mom and for our family was because there was an affordable junior college available to her. That is the only reason. And so our family has enjoyed the benefits of that education, that public education. And the reason that I think it's important tonight is that I know, and I suspect all of you know, that there are kids in this community right now who are every bit as smart, every bit as motivated, every bit as deserving, and every bit as needy as our mother was 90 years ago. And we owe them the opportunity to do what she did and to do for their families what she did for our family. Because you can learn law, you can learn viticulture, you can learn nursing, you can learn almost anything at an institution of public education. But what public education really traffics in is hope. Hope and opportunity. And in this country, as has always been true, but it seems to be really true now, we've got a tremendous chasm, culturally and economically, between those who've got a lot and those who don't have so much. And if we're ever going to address that gap in any meaningful way, it's going to be through education, in my opinion. I don't see any other way that it's going to happen. And so what I'm suggesting is that beginning tonight, all of us fulfill that responsibility to create those opportunities and create that hope by keeping public education available, keeping public education independent, and keeping public education affordable. I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate the recognition. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Emery, stand up! Stand up! Now I'd like to introduce a man who really needs no introduction in Sonoma County, Congressman Mike Thompson. As Congressman Thompson comes to the stage, let me just say how fortunate we are to have a man of this stature representing us in Washington, D.C. He is one of the most senior Democrats in the House. He has advocated for agriculture and for Santa Rosa Junior College for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Mike Thompson.
Well, thank you very much. First, I want to say that Frank tried to get me to wear that sport coat up here, but I told him I wasn't ready to retire yet. I'm here tonight to do a couple of things. First, I want to present this congressional record statement to Ben, to the college. I had the opportunity to stand in the well of the Congress and to read these words. And in short, what I said was, Santa Rosa Junior College rocks. It is absolutely fantastic. And this program, celebrating 50 years, has been unbelievable for agriculture throughout our entire area. A lot's been said tonight about how important it is for the kids, and that is absolutely 100% true. The other thing is, not only are the kids important for us in the future, but the idea of agriculture and being able to feed the population going forward is incredibly important too. And Santa Rosa Junior College has given that opportunity to a lot of people. And as Pat said, education is really a pathway to success. And you've done it all here. So congratulations on 50 great years. And the second honor that I have is to present an award to Pat Emery. Pat, can you come up? This is a real highlight in my career because this is somebody whom I really respect. He's incredibly bright. We have a lot in common. We both went to Harvard. He went to the Harvard on the East Coast. I went to the Harvard on the West Coast. And I'm glad to hear that some of your family also understood how important Chico State, the Harvard of the West, is. But Pat has always impressed me, not only because he's a legal giant, not only in our community, but across the country, but what really got me excited, Pat, was seeing you in the junior livestock auction and the passion that you brought to making sure kids had an opportunity to learn about agriculture, to sell their animals, and to be able to use the money that they made to further their education. And it was very, very impressive. The other thing that we have in common is we both do a little ag on the side. I grow grapes and I grow olives. And Pat and I spent a lot of time talking about olives. He decided he wanted to do that, and we were trading information. And so we both have olives. And you taught me something. Well, I'm going to tell you. About the time that we experienced these tragic fires that disrupted our life and cost us so many problems here in the valley, Pat lost a bunch of olive trees. And about the same time, I had somebody drive off the road and take out a couple of my olive trees with their pickup truck. And we both had to deal with insurance companies to figure out how we were going to be remunerated for this loss. And after the fact, I got my settlement from my insurance company, Pat got his from his insurance company, and we were talking about it. And I learned something. I learned that if you're going to deal with an insurance company to get remunerated for your loss over an agricultural product, it's better to be a trial lawyer than a congressman. But Pat, it's a great honor for me to give you this certificate of congressional recognition for what you've done. You're an absolute treasure to our community, and the agricultural community owes you a huge thank you. Thank you so
Congratulations, Pat. Thank you, Congressman Thompson. Woo! All right.